Well, greetings. This is Melvin York, and you're listening to Gardening with Daddy Pete. And today we're going to be talking about compost. I have a lot of questions about the usage of compost and the different things of plantings and all. So I would like to go through some of those today and maybe help you get a better understanding of what compost is and what you can use it for. The difference between a facility-made compost like ours and the compost you make at home yourself is going to be totally different in a lot of ways. And we want to talk about that for a second. And also where to use compost and where not to use compost. My question was, could I use mushroom compost in planting or container planting? And the answer is no. The reason being, compost will hold too much water, does not have enough airspace for the plant. Keep in mind, a plant is just like you and I, needs the same thing, the right amount of air, the right amount of water, and the right amount of food. So keeping those in mind, we're looking at correct watering, correct airspace where air can get to the roots of the plant, and a soggy root will cause disease, you lose your plant. Dry root, naturally, just like you, a person with not enough water, you expire. Again, a healthy plant is fed correctly. So those are the three things that you want to keep in mind. They are just like you as a human being. They got to have the correct amount of air, oxygen. They have to have the correct amount of food and the correct amount of water. So we want your soil to hold a part of water, but we don't want it to hold it dead up against the roots and drench them, cause them to be wet, and that's where you form diseases. Now, compost, when we make it commercially, compost is turned and we reach certain temperatures, then we turn again to either if the compost is starting to cool down or if the temperature is going too high, then we turn the row again to keep those temperatures even. And it's around 150, 155 degrees. We don't want it to go over 170 because we start killing beneficial microbes. We don't want it to go under 130 because then we allow some of the microbes that's non-beneficial, things like Salmonella, E. coli, to actually form. So we want to kill those microbes, but we don't want to kill the beneficial ones. So that's what we do. In your compost bin at home, you're going to use in sticks and leaves and table scraps of some sort, usually eggshells, whatever. Your compost is going to be more coarse or dense, or coarse than dense, like a manufactured compost would be. Compost has 5 or 6 things that's usually good for, and they work real well for that. But planting straight into it is not one of them. Now, like anything else, it's like if you're cooking a meal, there are certain things that you use in your casserole. There are certain things you don't use in your casserole. So kind of look at it like that. So we're going to take compost here, and I'm going to give you a few of the usage of it, and you can use it as a mulch. Now, compost works well on some of your flower beds, your perennial beds, your around trees, even in your garden underneath some of your plants works real well. Apply an inch or so thick or more, and that helps hold moisture around the plant, keeps the temperature in check, keeps off some of the freezing temperatures in winter, keeps back some of the heat in the summer. So you can use your compost as a mulch. If you're making compost at home, that's a good way to do it. If you're buying some, that's fine. You can add it to potting soil. Now, keep in mind, I said add it to, not grow in. Potting soil, look at compost as an amendment. We're going to amend your potting soil. We want to give it a little bit of kick. In compost, you're looking at your NPK or all organic factors. Some of the nitrogen, depending on what you've used to compost, may release very slow. some releases quicker than the others. So whether you're getting a good nitrogen source for your plants right off the bat, or whether it's going to be a month down the road, 2 months down the road, all depends on what you're composting. You need a little research on that too if you're using it to feed the plants. It works good in your crop beds out, say you're doing row crops. When you put compost down the row, you help. One thing is you're putting in some nutrients in the ground. You're also helping to bust some of that clay if you're around the clay area. If you're down in the sandy area, most definitely need to use some compost to help hold moisture. You already have natural drainage going on in that sandy soil. You can top dress with it on your lawns. You can make a tea out of it, feed your potted plants, works good. Yeah, you can add it to the soil around fruit trees, it works real well. These are just some of the things you can do with compost. Again, compost mixed with clay makes a great soil to grow vegetables and annuals and things in. So, but keep in mind, you never plant your plant like if you're doing pottings, containers, directly into a compost. It needs to always be used as an additive. Makes a good tea. One thing that I would encourage, especially you new gardeners on, is to write down everything that you're doing. Keep a log. Keep a log. Keep a log on what you planted, when you planted it, what variety it was, what the temperature was that day. And you say, well, that's a lot of trouble. Actually, it's not. You usually get that information anyway. And see how things are going. What did you use to feed the plant as you went on if you're doing organics? What did you use if you're using commercial fertilizer? What fertilizer did you use? What variety of the plant did you use? And I would recommend trying a couple different varieties if you're new. Say green beans, try a couple of different varieties. Tomatoes, try a couple different varieties. See which works best for you, which is best for your taste, which produces the most. And go back and look. Our extension services through our state colleges have great information. It gives you the right fertilization, gives you the right pH balance, the conditions to plant it, gives you all that, what insects will attack, and what diseases are out there. So make sure you use that resource. It's free to you. So go online and look at those, and I think you'll find it. Invest in a small, inexpensive pH meter. pH is very important. pH unlocks the soil at a certain number for that plant to reach in and grab all of the food that it could grab, or the nutrients. It's just like blueberry. They need a pH between 4.5 and 5.5. Tomatoes, green beans, and corn, 6.5 to 7. They will grow 6 to 7 in there. So every crop's got a little different pH on there, and you do that by either adjusting it with lime, or you can, if you need to, bring it down, you can use sulfur. So these are the things that when you're applying and planting, you need to know. But the main source of this is compost, is when and where to use it. So I hope that's answered your question on planting directly in compost, but what the uses and how great this product is. I know that our dairy compost, we have a mushroom compost, and people love it. It really works well. We do have a chicken compost that is mixed with our dairy compost, so called Kickin' Chicken. So you may look for that. So I hope this has really helped you on understanding what compost is. You can go to daddypete's.com and subscribe, listen in to our podcast. We'd love to have you. Also, sign up for our emails while you're there. If you'd like to look at our different soils and compost and what they do and how to use them. And also check our About page. We've been around since 1907. I think you'll find it very interesting. Well, until the next time, this is Melvin York, Gardening with Daddy Pete.